Hello everyone, ATR here, and it's patch time. That's right, it is October 21st, and today is that funky fresh public beta update. Their words, right there, not mine. But yes, today, October 21st, we have an exciting patch, and that is where the beta for Company Heroes 2 is pretty much opened up, essentially, to the public, I guess you could say. I'm gonna go through this. It's actually quite lengthy, so sit down, shut up, and hang tight, because it's gonna be a long one. And well, if you want to participate in the beta, just go ahead and get it yourself. It's out now. But yeah, let's just go ahead and read through what is happening on this. So it says, in order to make it easier for players to opt into the beta, we are going to with a side-by-side install. This is new to our beta process and is an alternative to the slightly more complicated opt-in process that we have previously used. It is a small hit to hard drive space, but will allow you to have both the beta version and live version of the game installed at once, meaning that you can switch between the two versions without having to re-download something else. Players will have access to titles that they already have or already own. As an example, if you don't own Western Front armies, you will not be able to access it in the beta. Commanders and all other DLC are a different story, and we will be granting temporary access or temporary full access to this content in order to meet our testing requirements and collect more feedback. This beta does not include single-player Theater of War or workshop content. This may change in the future beta releases, however, this one is solely focused on multiplayer content. There you go. So the way that this is going to work is you just go into your Steam library, and there you're going to find a Company Heroes 2 beta game already on your list, and if you want to participate in the beta, just go ahead and install it. It's going to obviously take up more disk space, but you get access to these changes before they go live. And one thing that obviously I'm excited for is Observer Mode. It says we wanted to create a feature which enabled players to further engage with the game. With the introduction of Observer Mode will facilitate both casters and players. It providing tool to better analyze and capture footage as well as spectate for the sake of entertainment and knowledge. We are extremely excited about this feature and hope that excitement is shared throughout the community. Goals. Designed for casters to show off the game and for average players to be able to spectate live matches. Allow users to view replays of others to facilitate the game learning and a sense of community by sharing game experience. Deliver on Relic's ambition to implement this for CoH2 and respond to popular demand for the community. To facilitate the forthcoming ESL tournament. Support the casting and competitive communities. And then they repeat the same things over and over again. Right there. That says protect the integrity of the player experience by having enough of a delay between in-game actions and their observer modes results to prevent cheating, which currently means it has an 8-minute delay for live games. So they'll probably tinker with that, but yeah, they're not going to be showing full live games because, well, in Company Heroes 2, things like mines exist and those can last more than 8 minutes, so it's kind of hard to find a balance there. Anyway, work for both custom games and auto match games. Features, 512 concurrent viewers live per match with the ability to scale up to tens of thousands for special events like tournament finals. Up to 64 viewers in the early beta. This number can be scaled up. Customized UI, ability to turn off UI for a cinematic mode. We work to reduce the overall footprint of the UI to show off more of the game. And player data is grouped into sections that allows observers to quickly get the information they seek. Team 1 on the left, Team 2 on the right. Observable on-off, delay slider 0 to 15 minutes, password option to bypass delay. Custom games allow players to set options, data displayed, units, production tree, command trees. Commander abilities and cooldown, resources, observing as a party. You can invite other users to the party, helps to keep casting teams together so that everyone is watching the game at the same time. Everyone will be kept in sync if someone speeds up, slows down, or pauses the game. Toggle taskbar, Control T, yay hotkeys. Control R for resources, Control F for Fog of War, although it says coming soon. Control U for the UI, equals and minus for speed up and slow down. Right bracket and left bracket for cycle players. Control plus the bracket or whatever to toggle unit decorators of players on the top right or left end of the screen. Hotkeys. The technology is integrated with other in-progress initiatives like mod support, which allows for future blah blah blah. Okay, so yeah, those are all the things that they've been doing with the observer mode. If you saw on the one of the previous streams, they showed it off, and it looks okay. They still have a lot of ways to go, but it's nice that it's there, and we're going to be able to test it out, and that is the first thing that I'm going to be doing is testing out that observer mode and seeing how it plays out. So keep an eye on videos after this for that, and yeah. Anyways, in-game chat moderation. To help ensure all players are having an enjoyable in-game experience, we have rolled out the first phase of an in-game chat moderation feature. This feature can potentially replace certain banned words with new text, remove a word entirely, and or send a whisper coaching message to the offending party. This feature will see further rollout as we receive new reports. So, to prevent, abusive players, and you can see that in a lot of replays where, there's a lot of derogatory terms being tossed around. They're going to try and moderate that in-game. Units and abilities. Allies are more difficult to play as a result of their high unit count and low power unit ratio per unit. For example, instead of having one super heavy Tiger, the US forces have 2 or 3 Sherman tanks. In theory, the US player possesses a relatively small army value. Similar army value. In practice, the execution of this army requires greater coordination. Short term, our goal is to target a few problematic units or upgrades to better align the factional balance. Long term, we will be addressing factional scaling, how the power of a faction compounds into the late game, and difficulty of play related to allied army composition. That said, other factors will likely be added to the list as we further investigate some of the challenges players are facing. A little bit interesting to note. That is personally, I feel like a theme of the faction. The US forces have a lot of units that they can utilize, but not heavy power, so they have to rely on their tactics rather than just brute force. But, well, we'll see how they address that and if it doesn't, change the feel of the faction too much. Stationary howitzers. Our goal was to increase the durability of the howitzers without making the unit too resilient versus off-map abilities. Values greater than 400 meant howitzers could withstand attacks from off-maps such as the Ju-87 Stuka dive bomber. We found this undesirable as it made destroying the unit too difficult given the fact that it is typically placed well behind enemy front lines. The slightly increased health will help in some scenarios, particularly in cases when off-maps such as the light artillery barrage or tanks are used to counter this heavy weapon. We will monitor the performance of this unit post-change and take action as needed. So they increase the health of the howitzers, but we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, all these changes, keep in mind, this is for the beta. These are not changes for the game itself. These are changes that are currently going to be in the beta to be tested. It doesn't mean it has going to have, not all of them are going to roll out to the final game. They're just, trying them out. And if you want to try out and help out in the testing, well, download the beta yourself. AT guns. AT guns were gaining in veterancy significantly faster than any other unit in the game as a result of their high rate of fire and targets of choice. This diluted the value of their veterancy, making something that should be rare and powerful a bit too common. So they now require twice as much experience to level up at each respective veterancy level. So yeah, it makes sense because, they're shooting tanks and doing a lot of damage to tanks, and because it's based on damage, they were getting a lot of veterancy, so they're toning that so that it, takes a while for the veterancy to get there, so hopefully that's good. Kubel Wagon. Although we are pleased with the performance of this unit, we were unsatisfied with the effectiveness of available counters. The small target size of the Kubel Wagon made handheld anti-tank weapons such as the bazooka or PTRS and dedicated AT guns less effective. By increasing its size, the reliability of these weapons will be increased. By increasing the fuel cost of the Kubel Wagon, we have upped the risk of production and delayed future vehicle production. The 5 fuel increase can be retrieved by salvaging the destroyed Kubel Wagon, or it can be denied by the opposing player through the destruction of the vehicle wreck. That's kind of an interesting thing, but yeah, basically the Kubel Wagon is taking a hit again. It's going to get nerfed. It is getting its size increased from 10 to 14, which means that it's now going to be more prone to get hit by anti-tank weapons or anti-vehicle weapons, so that's good. It should, at least. The fuel cost has been set to 5, which is insignificant, really, but it does delay a little bit. And yeah, whatever. Little joke there by Cynthia. Don't forget to wagon some cool folks. But yeah, the interesting thing is what they mentioned right there. Well, as the OKW, you can salvage your wrecks. So if you salvage the cool wagon, you regain the 5 fuel that you spent on it. So that's kind of a nice little trade-off here. So it costs you fuel, but you can get it back once it dies. You can even kill it yourself if you wanted. Volksgrenadier. We wanted to better align the fuse timer for the Volksgrenadier's grenade with other similar class grenades. Previously, its fuse timer was set to that of a cooked grenade, which is only used on elite infantry such as shock troopers and paratroopers. This change also helps mitigate the overall strength of a Volksgrenadier squad, as it slightly reduces their anti-infantry capacity. Our concern is that this unit is overperforming largely because it can fend off off all target types. Even with a Panzerschreck equipped, the potent grenade of the Volksgrenadier enabled them to engage other elite infantry. So basically, they're increasing half a second, 0.75 to 1.25 on the fuse for the grenade. So it's going to be a little bit easier to dodge, but I mean, that's the only hit, so I think that's fine. Yak Tiger and ISU 152. This is interesting. This change increases the amount of attention these super heavy units require. This balances the relative effort needed to go up against these units. So it says no longer able to automatically engage targets. A manual fire ability was added to each unit. That is interesting. So it means basically you have to right click with those units to shoot, which is weird, but I don't know. Interestingly enough, the elephant isn't mentioned anywhere here, so I don't know if that also gets the same treatment or is getting ignored. But I don't know if this is good or bad. I mean, it's one of those changes that I hope doesn't actually go through because I mean, you already have the ability to make it target vehicles specifically, which maybe made them too strong because they weren't getting distracted with the other infantry, and maybe that's why they're doing this. But I mean, just not having it do anything and just sit there dumbfounded when it's being attacked by a tank head on if you're not paying attention, it doesn't sit well with me. But well, we'll see how much it affects these units. Yak Tiger, 12.8 centimeter supporting fire ability costs from 30 to 0 munitions, and the same ability and designate target now share a cooldown. Recharge timer set to match the main gun's reload timer of 8.55 seconds. Supporting fire triggers an increased recharge duration, which is set to 30 seconds. And the ISU 152 designate target and concrete piercing round ability now share the cooldown, and same of 11 seconds. So there you go. Pack 40. We felt that the Pack 40 was overperforming. It provided the Wehrmacht with too much flexibility in terms of when and what anti-armor they choose to field. It also greatly marginalized light vehicles, in many cases taking out a T-70 or Stuart faster than the opposing player could react to the first shot fired. The increased reload rate now not only reduces the effective DPS of this AT gun, it opens up the use of light vehicles. Light vehicles can now be fielded to apply greater mid-game pressure, increasing the risk of delaying armor as Wehrmacht. As a result, this should encourage the Wehrmacht to diversify their strategies, thereby relying less on their heavier units. So basically, they just increased the reload time for the Pack 40, so it doesn't shoot as often. It's basically increased by a second, being 0.8 seconds on the low end, 1 second entirely on the high end. So, yeah, I mean, it's a nerf for it, but we'll see if it makes it still viable or if it just kills the weapon. Dodge, WC-51. The effectiveness of this unit diminishes over time by delaying its use to one command point. It became available at a point in the game where it no longer retained its advantage on the field. On the other hand, when it did become available at 0 command points, the risk associated with the use of this unit was too low. We were particularly concerned with the use of units within the Dodge, as they suffered very little risk in return for what they gained. To better balance this risk, we attached similar penalties to that of the M3A1 Scout Car, meaning units now receive a combat penalty when firing out of the Dodge. Additionally, units in the Dodge at the time of destruction will now incur casualties. This I didn't know wasn't happening because I don't use that vehicle. I don't have that commander. But that actually seems like an oversight for me. It doesn't make any sense for the Dodge not to have the same attributes as the M3 Scout Car. So they brought down the command points back to 0, and now the units inside have a combat penalty when they're inside of the truck, and if the truck gets killed, they have a chance to die, which should have been there from the get-go in my opinion. But, well, I guess it's nice that they're adding that. I don't see any reason why this would not go through to live. That just makes perfect sense. Bar. We wanted the bar to have more power at short and mid ranges. We did slightly scale up long range damage, but overall it is short and mid range where players will see the largest increase in performance. This will enable the bar to more effectively counteract long range weapons such as the LMG-42 through better positioning. So basically they're buffing the bar, the accuracy just going up all across the board. Single plane off maps. This is an interesting change, and I kind of like it because it reminds me of the old VCO planes like airborne and such. But anyway, single plane off map. Single plane off maps such as the IL-2 precision bombing run or the Ju-87 anti-tank strafe are now directional, allowing the player to control the entry point and flight direction. Players now have more control over the payload delivery, the time to impact, and the placement of a strike relative to the environment. Overall, the change to directional placement will make these abilities stronger in smaller maps or when activated near a map edge, but weaker when used in larger maps or away from the map edge. As a result, a number of activation times were increased or decreased to better control how fast these abilities could deliver their payload to the designated target. If the ability time was set too low, the payload could be delivered in less than a second, giving the opposing player little time to react. In some instances, it was necessary to modify the way the payload was delivered. This was done to increase the precision of the strafe relative to the information provided by the UI. So it says, the anti-tank strafe, U-87, in order to ensure the strafe could effectiveness, in order to ensure the strafe effectiveness or could effectively engage its targets, we tightened up the payload delivery. This removes scenarios where the shots would land to the left or right of the target rather than directly impact the unit. As a result, the lethality of the strafe has gone up considerably, although it does require a higher degree of execution to be effective. Additionally, shots are now dumb-fired, meaning the Ju-87 fires off a number of shots within the designated zone without thought to what targets might be hit. This enables it to engage more targets types, including structures, infantry, and other world objects. So yeah, it like I said, similar to the other ones. You're gonna mark where it's gonna strafe, and it's gonna strafe right there. Anything caught in the path is gonna get hit, but if you move out of the path, it's not gonna turn and target it and go for it. So it's location of it, you aiming the ability is going to be much more important. So it says, ability now activates 2 seconds faster, straightened flight path to reduce straight shots, tightening fire path to increase accuracy of ability, adjusting fire zone so shots would be more effectively or more evenly distributed within the designated area, munitions cost from 90 to 110, and cooldown from 0.125 to 0.25. The Ju-87 reconnaissance pass, reduced flight velocity, is designed to provide sight on the ground for an extended period of time. This increased effectiveness resulted in a slight cost adjustment. So ability will now activate 1 second faster. The munition cost is up to from 30 to 35, and the velocity is from 160 to 80. So the reconnaissance plane is going to fly a lot slower, giving you more time to view the battlefield where it's actually looking, rather than quick glimpses. And well, we'll see. I mean, obviously, with a slower flight time, it's going to be more prone to get shot down. So it's one thing you have to keep in mind. The anti-infantry strafe ability now activates 2 seconds faster. So again, nothing much to think about that one. That one's pretty much going to be the airborne strafe from VCO, pretty much dead on. I'm assuming it's going to feel exactly like that. Fragmentation bombing run. This strafe would previously activate instantly, meaning units could be wiped out with nearly no warning. As noted above, this issue was exaggerated when the ability was used close to the map edge. So the ability now activates 1.99 seconds slower. Incendiary bombing run. Ability activates 199 slower. Straighted flight path to reduce stray shots. The smoke bombing run. This is a fairly significant improvement in the usability of this ability, given players can now control the direction of the smoke. Use this ability to set up offensive maneuvers or cover a tactical retreat. Yeah, that's actually great for this ability, because you can now set where the line is going to be tossed. So, again, like it says, you can make a line so that you can run through the line up to the enemy, or you can make a line to like block the line of sight of everything and retreat, things like that. So that one's actually probably going to see even more usage now. Aligned payload delivery, ammunition cost. Oh, and the ammunition cost even went down from 50 to 40. So this is just the complete buff to this ability. Being able to place it how you want and getting a 10 munition cost off of that. Yeah, that's pretty good. Precision bombing run. The bombs will now fall one after the other in a linear path. This extends the radius of damage, preventing a single concentrated attack from being executed. This is offset by the introduction of directional behavior, which provides more control of how the bombs are distributed. So the bombing run is no longer just a bomb that hits and does massive damage. It's going to be a bombing strafing run. Essentially, it's going to hit an area, so it's going to behave differently. So that should be interesting to note how it changes the flow of that commander, the way that it works. Ability will now activate 1 second faster, straighten the flight path, plane velocity a little bit slower, increased plane flight height. The AoE was increased because it's no longer one massive damage in one zone, it's more hits spread out. So more AoE. The damage also went up because you're not going to be hitting like this all the damage in one, it's going to spread out. And the angle scatter from 5 to 2.5, so less scatter there. Anti-tank bombing run activates 1.99 slower. All these that say 199 slower is because of the fact that you can designate where it's going to call in. So, you can sometimes call in very close to the edge of the map and hit instantly. So that's why that happens. The Sturmovik attack advanced. Tighten up firing behavior, reducing stray shots, and angle of scatter reduced from 7.5 to 2.5, so not a lot of scatter there. Ambient buildings. Our goal is to improve the gameplay value of buildings and reduce the potential frustrations associated with their use. The first step towards achieving this goal is to increase the transparency of building structural integrity. By doing so, players are better equipped to analyze the battlefield and its potential assets. Further improvements will focus on gameplay and interactions. This might include improving the functionality of a weapon team within a garrison or providing the player with a better means of identifying each structure type. So, improvements. Building panels now have a real health value rather than rigid conditional destruction. Buildings can now have independent tuning for their panel health. Area of effect weapons can now have independent tuning for how they damage panels over their AoE, and buildings are now destroyed when 50% of their total panel health is reached rather than 50% of total panels destroyed. Panel health. All ambient buildings are made up of a number of panels. Panels are meant to represent sections of walls, roofs, and floors and allow pieces of a building to be destroyed while leaving other pieces intact. Previously, to destroy a panel, you needed to meet one of two requirements. Either deal X amount of damage to a panel in a single hit, or deal X amount of damage, halved damage twice to a panel. So yeah, 2 hits or 1 hit. Additionally, panels could be immune to certain weapon types: ballistics, explosives, small arms, flame. As a rule, they were immune to small arms. Within this system, panels were either never damaged by certain weapons, flak, half-track, etc., or always killed instantly by certain weapons, IS-2, etc. Flimsy wooden structures being immune to 20mm weapons and castle-like structures being vaporized by mortars or other high-explosive weapons did not fit within our design visions. Now, panels have the following properties. Panels have a maximum health value. Panels have a minimum damage value that must be exceeded before it takes damage. When a panel is dealt damage, it reduces the total health of the panel like other objects in the game. Panels can be immune to certain weapon types. We created three types of building profiles: very weak, normal, and strong. Not sure why they say very weak and then go to normal. They could have just said weak, but that's fine. Each ambient building is assigned one of these profiles, and that profile defines their panel properties. Very weak buildings have the lowest panel health and the lowest minimum damage required. They are also no longer immune to small arm weapons. Any building that appears weakly constructed is considered very weak. A weakly constructed building might contain a thatched roof or a poorly aligned wood panels. So the little shacks and things like that are probably going to be these guys. So they can actually fall to small arms fires. So I'm assuming it's not very quick. Like a rifle squad is probably not going to take it down, at least not without any considerable investment. But maybe an MG is actually going to be doing considerable damage to that type of structure, which would make sense. I mean, an outhouse isn't really going to protect you too much from an MG, right? Then we have normal buildings are immune to small arms, have higher panel health, and higher minimum damage required. Buildings that appear well constructed are considered normal. They will typically contain wood paneling and a proper roof structure. Buildings made of bricks or concrete, big churches, not the wooden ones, are considered strong. Strong buildings are immune to small arms, have higher panel health, and the same minimum damage as normal buildings. In the future, we intend to provide a means to easily identifying the structure type in game, so that's good. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how well this affects the building play. So yeah, I mean, as long as they're trying to improve it, that's good. The end result is that buildings will survive longer over the course of multiple combat engagements and be less prone to unexpectedly collapsing. Additionally, the health indicator on buildings will now be more accurate, better identifying the risk associated to its garrison. Hey, at least we're past the days where a rifle grenade from the grenadiers would instantly collapse a full health building, so that's good. So, but yeah, I mean, the more we can fine-tune that, will be better. AoE weapons. The above changes initially resulted in AoE weapons becoming more lethal versus buildings. To address this, we gave each AoE weapon a building damage profile. This profile allows us to further tune the damage a weapon does over the range of its AoE when damaging a building panel. For example, it was undesirable to have a mortar deal no visible damage to a panel on the first 2 hits, only to destroy a number of panels on the subsequent hit. This made it difficult to predict and analyze the state of a building. To resolve this, we adjusted the mortar AoE profile such that its closest AoE range applied more damage than its mid and far ranges. This caused each hit to destroy a panel instead of weakening the panels over multiple hits, leaving the buildings vulnerable to unexpectedly collapsing. Sorry. The tuning is ongoing. If we identify problem weapons, we will adjust them accordingly. We do want to avoid creating unique weapon types, as this increases the complexity of the systems and thereby required knowledge of its functionality from the players. So yeah, I guess I understand that. I mean, it's still better to do it if it's gonna make the game better rather than not. But yeah, I guess why they don't want to overcomplicate things on a interior level. Gameplay improvements. A large portion of the gameplay within Company Heroes 2 focuses on execution of tactics. This requires units to be both responsive and easily maneuverable. As such, we have been focused on resolving and improving core gameplay to do just that. For clarification, an entity is an individual soldier within a squad, whereas a squad is a combination of all entities within itself. Weapon tracking. Weapons can now track their target while the unit is pivoting. Previously, the tracking would be delayed, resulting in delayed targeting. Pew, pew, pew. I'm assuming this is, well, I mean, this might also work for squads, but I'm assuming this is probably for vehicles, but I don't know. But, well, anyways, any improvement there is fine. Entity combat behavior. Entities now respond to threats outside of their firing cone independent of other entities within the squad. Previously, entities would wait until all other entities were ready to fire before engaging. This will reduce the potential delay a squad may incur before firing on a given target. So, yeah, I mean, if you have your squad like behind a wall and one of them is peeking out and, gets attacked, he's going to react a little bit more quickly, I suppose. So I guess all of that is nice. As long as it gives it a better responsiveness to the units, all of that is great. Team weapons. Team weapons will no longer automatically set up when issued a move order. That is great, because it's very annoying to move your weapon only to have it set up and then like, oh, I have to set it up in this angle, but it's set up by itself, or it's currently in the process of setting up and it's setting up in the wrong angle. So yeah, that's nice. Team weapons will automatically set up when an enemy is nearby or the weapon team is attacked. That's fine. I mean, as long as it sets up to look at that enemy and shoot at it, that is great. I don't think that's a problem. While moving to their target destination, team weapons will no longer suffer from movement delays when a team member is killed. That's great. I mean, you'll be able to keep them alive a little bit better. Retreating weapon teams will no longer suffer a delay in movement if an entity is killed during the retreat. Again, that's also great. Weapon teams can no longer have their retreat broken once the order is issued. Also excellent. Team weapons caught in suppressive fire will now try to set up and return fire. Okay, that's interesting. So I'm assuming what if you... Well, I'm not sure exactly what it means. I mean, if you're moving your squad and it gets suppressed, I'm assuming it's going to keep moving. It's not going to just stop and set up to shoot back at the enemy, because a suppressed MG, even though it can shoot, it doesn't actually do anything. So that wouldn't make sense. Team weapons are now allowed to reposition their weapon cone while suppressed. So that's I guess also good. Resolved an issue with carry team weapons which caused the weapon's firing arc to position the wrong way. This resolves an issue with with weapon teams setting up in the wrong direction. That is crucial and critical. It's awesome that they've resolved this. This is great. Doesn't happen too often, but it happens every once in a while, and that is game breaking and can quickly lose you a game. And that is where your MG would not be looking in the right direction. Doesn't matter. Like when you set it up, it's just aimed at a different angle, and yeah. It says that they resolved it, so as long as that doesn't happen again, and that's it, that is great. That's great news. Team weapons no longer require all entities to be near the weapon in order for a setup order to be initiated. This will improve the responsiveness of a team weapons in a number of scenarios. So that's cool. So if the squad is a little bit spread out, the weapon itself, it's still going to set up even though the other guys are not there. So yeah, that's nice. Cover preview. Default cover is now previewed similar to negative, light, and heavy covers. This provides transparency in regards to where each entity within a squad will go. It also helps players identify what cover types are available in a given area. Squad cover behavior. Squads will now use a combination of their squad plans and a custom algorithm to align each entity in the relative cover positions. This improves the distribution of the entities in cover. When hovering the cursor over terrain, squad cover placement in the form of a yellow or green dot, is shown based on the distance from the cursor's origin. For example, a value of 5 would factor in all cover locations in a radius of 5 units from the cursor's origin. This value was increased in size from 2 to 3 units. This was done to ensure that all entities within a squad are able to get into cover. A lower value meant some entities would remain outside of cover when an order to enter cover was given. This does not apply to single entity squads such as snipers and team weapons. Improved cover generation by increasing the number of cover slots a world object provides. Previously, a number of world objects had too few cover slots, resulting in some entities of a squad receiving no cover bonus. Improve the direction a squad will choose to face when entering cover relative to the location of nearby enemy units. Given that a number of objects in the world provide directional cover, this improvement helps ensure the squads retain their cover bonus when in combat. And then directional cover is now analyzed on a 2D basis. This prevents scenarios from occurring where entities would not receive their cover bonus. Not exactly sure what that means at the end, but as long as it helps, with the cover system, that's great. Input delay. Optimize the way commands are managed and stored, reducing input delay by 180 milliseconds on average. This will drastically improve unit responsiveness as a result. That is great. Let's hope that that continues to be further improved, but as long as they keep improving the input delay, it's going to be a lot better and getting that game ready for prime time, right? Infantry reactions. Squad reactions such as ground dives as a result of explosive weapons will no longer occur while the squad is moving. Reactions will only apply to stationary squads. This will improve the responsiveness of squads in a combat scenario. So that's nice. So if you have your squad on a move order, doesn't matter if shit's blowing up around them, they will continue on their path. It's only when they're stopped, like if you put them in cover and explosions go off, that's when they'll probably take a dive and try and get out of the way. Bug and gameplay fixes. These bug and gameplay fixes are aimed at improving usability and functionality within the game. In some cases, the below changes resolve incorrect data which unintentionally made it into the game. AI. Number of optimizations and bug fixes were made to improve the performance and functionality of AI. That's great. Map optimizations. The following maps have seen a number of optimizations to pathing, balance, or general gameplay. Troyes Point, City 17, Elbrook Station. The following maps, bugs, same maps. Actually, no. City 17, Winter, Box Farmlands, and the Glaze. So, not sure what they are, but, well, they're fixing the maps and making them better, so that's good. Retreating. Strafing runs will no longer suppress or pin squads while retreating. That is great. That should never have happened, but that's great. Vaulting can no longer be issued an order to vault on the same world object they are currently vaulting on. This prevents back and forth behavior which was previously occurring. Well, I mean, what if you want to train your guys? I mean, keep them, get them heated up and keep them in shape. They have to jump over the fence back and forth. But no more training, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I guess you can't accidentally double vault, which probably is that's going to be fixing. Soviet AT guns removed the 25% received accuracy modifier, which was mistakenly applied to these units. Well, that's great. Didn't know it had it, but now it's gone. Combat engineers now use a unique version of the Mosing Nagant rifle, and manpower costs from 180 to 170. So it's nice that they're cheaper. I don't know what this means, or well, not that, but I mean, I don't know what that line means. Does that increase its damage, reduce its damage? I don't know, but they now have their own weapon essentially, even though it looks the same and it's the same weapon, but I don't know what that means. Pioneer MP40 moving accuracy from 1 to 0.6, so they are less accurate on the move. AT guns corrected the required experience for each level of veterancy such that it matches its base cost. So yeah, I mean, this is what they mentioned earlier on, that they should take longer now to veteran up. AT guns no longer push around their own crew while turning. That's good. M2HB HMG now uses an infantry turning plan. This resolves odd pivots and turns which were previously made by the squad. This also means the squad will reposition quicker as a result of these changes. Movement modifiers set to match the MG42. Acceleration and deceleration disabled, and rotation rate set to 10,000, which is instant. So I'm assuming this thing was behaving like a vehicle before, which was kind of weird, but well, there you go. Units for getting orders resolve the number of instances which cause units to not execute given orders. That's great. Intel bulletins resolve an issue with intel bulletin stacking if units crewed or decrewed a vehicle. Didn't know that was happening, but that's nice to fix. Still think bulletins should be just removed from the game, but whatever. Event queues resolved an issue with the event queue system which prevented under fire queues from being issued. Queues of this type will now occur if units under fire are 60 units apart. USF Major Established Retreat Point can now retreat to HQ while forward retreat is active, and deactivating forward retreat will cause retreating squads to retreat to the HQ now instead of the old forward retreat point. So that is nice. So now you can actually retreat your major if it gets attacked without having to first remove the retreat point and then retreat, so you can instantly just get rid of it. And this one is kind of, double-sided. It was kind of nice in some instances to be able to have your squads retreat to the point where it was, even though the major wasn't going to be there anymore. But I mean, it makes more sense just to have everybody retreat back home. Besides, I mean, there's other scenarios where you want this to happen because, say for example, you get you push and your squads get suppressed or pinned down. You are forced to retreat, and when everybody's retreating, you see that on your major the little red flares are called pop out because a off map is getting called in on top of him. Uh, Everybody's going to die. So you retreat your major, but everybody was retreating and they're going to stop where the major was. Well, that's no longer the case. They're going to keep running and go back to your base. Hopefully it's not in the same path as before, but, at least that happens. So, it's a good thing. I think it's a little bit of a better behavior for it, make it more constant. Ability recharge. Squad abilities will now recharge while the squad is in a vehicle. That's nice. Paratrooper suppression fire no longer prevents the player from issuing other orders while the ability is active. For example, a retreat order can now be issued to the squad by the player. I did not know that actually happened, so that's actually good that it's happening or getting fixed. But yeah, so now even if you activate the ability, you can still retreat and not get killed. Hold down is no longer in a shared player cooldown. Multiple vehicles can now be hold down at once. I didn't know this was a global thing, so that's nice that it's fixed. I mean, it doesn't make any sense for why it would be global. I mean, you can hold down your tanks individually if you wanted. Infiltration grenades can no longer be refunded if the ability is cancelled abruptly. This prevents players from subverting the cost and recharge time by cancelling the ability before the last grenade has been thrown. So that is a cheap exploit, and I'm hoping that nobody was using that on purpose. But I guess it's nice. It's a double-edged sword, though, because I'm hoping that they're making it so that if no grenade gets tossed, that doesn't happen. You can still use it again and, get your money back. But if not, then you have to be a little bit careful. Yes, infiltration grenades don't really cost too much, so you're not losing that much. But, hopefully it's the latter. But I guess, a workaround is that if you cancel it, you no longer get the refund, so you have to be careful if you're going to be canceling that ability. So basically, you're just going to have to commit now. Soviet, Soviet Defensive Tactics Commander, the PMD-6 anti-personnel mines and tank traps now properly list as passive abilities. MG34 icon, MG34 now uses the correct icon. I'm not sure, didn't know it was the wrong one, but there you go. Command Panzer IV icon now uses the correct short barrel vehicle icon, and Luftwaffe incendiary bombing run icon now uses the correct J287 incendiary barrage icon. And there you go. Those are all the changes. Took a while, but we got through them. So yeah, if you want to take a stab at these changes and test them out yourself, go ahead and download the beta. Like I said, just go into your Steam library and it should be right there. It's going to obviously take up more space on your hard drive, but I think it's worth it to test out these new things and obviously give your feedback, because balance is one of the major key points on Company Heroes that everybody is always, complaining about because it's not balanced, really. So if you want to toss in your opinion there and help get this game to where it should be, then go ahead and download that. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Sorry if this was too long, and I'll see you next time.